Before I came back to the church, I made a lot of dating mistakes. I ended up in a toxic relationship that left me feeling broken and far from God. But those hard lessons taught me how to date with clarity, conviction, and trust in Him. And that trust eventually led me to my husband. If you're trying to date with faith in a world that doesn't make it easy, this video is for you. I'm sharing the lessons I learned the hard way so you can stay close to God, protect your heart, and be open to the kind of relationship He's preparing for you. Lesson 1. When I first started dating, I had a poor self-concept and said yes to the very first guy who paid attention to me, even though there were lots of red flags. The biggest one? He was a militant atheist who had open contempt for Christianity. To be accepted by him, I hid the spiritual side of myself and slowly compromised my values, which left me carrying a deep sense of guilt. It took me almost 8 years to finally see the truth, that the relationship was toxic and going nowhere. I knew that if I wanted a relationship that could actually lead to marriage, I had to look for someone who actually shared my values. Shared values are essential in dating because they're the foundation for building a life and a marriage. In most cases, the relationship won't work if you don't have them. Because when you don't agree on things like marriage and faith, it creates a tension that only grows stronger over time. It's not about being rigid. It's about being honest with yourself about the kind of future you want to build, and whether the person you're seeing can truly walk that path with you. Lesson 2. It was hard to meet guys who wanted to date with the intention of getting married. I ended up becoming discouraged and compromising my values, which resulted in me getting strung along for 8 years by someone who was openly opposed to marriage. Eventually, I realized that if I truly wanted to build a life rooted in faith, I had to stop settling for relationships that had no future. After I ended my toxic relationship, I decided to date with intention and to only pursue a relationship that could actually lead to marriage. As people of faith, we're called to date with purpose, and that purpose is marriage. Dating without that intention often leads to confusion, disappointment, and heartbreak. Dating for marriage is a powerful way to protect your heart and to honor your vocation. Lesson 3. Living in our modern secular culture, I struggled to find a young man who shared my Catholic values. Most didn't have a real faith life, weren't looking for marriage, or saw my convictions as old-fashioned and unrealistic. Over time, I came to realize that I had to be much more intentional about who I gave my heart to. I knew I needed someone whose life was centered on God. And while it wasn't easy, staying true to my values eventually led me to a kind, faithful, and spiritual man named Matthew, who eventually became my husband. Yes, it can be hard to find a man who shares your values, but that doesn't mean you should give up. Hold fast to what matters most and trust that God will lead you to the right person in His time. Faithful waiting is hard, but it's so worth it in the end. Lesson 4. For a long time, I held on to the idea that I would meet my future husband at church or at some kind of faith-based event. But that never happened. There were very few single men my age, and the few that I did meet, I didn't connect with. This happened over and over again, and it left me feeling totally discouraged. Eventually, I realized that while church is a beautiful place to grow in faith, it's definitely not the only place where God brings people together. Once I let go of that narrow expectation, I became much more open to the unexpected ways that God might work. And after a lot of prayer and discernment, I finally met my husband through the online dating site, eHarmony. You might not meet your future husband at church, and that's okay. Stay faithful, stay open, and trust that God will bring the right person into your life in His time. Lesson 5. For many years, I had low self-esteem, no relationship with God, and believed that if I could only find a boyfriend, I would feel better about myself. This was a dangerous combination and ultimately led me into a relationship that was very unhealthy for me. It took me almost 8 years, but I finally acknowledged that the reason I was staying in that relationship was because I didn't believe any other guy would be interested in me. And when I was finally able to admit that to myself, I realized just how flawed that thinking was. Only then could I begin the real work of healing, rebuilding my identity, and seeing myself the way God sees me. And for the first time, I truly began to believe in my own self-worth. If you don't believe in your own self-worth, you'll likely end up looking for validation in all the wrong places. But once you believe in your own worth as a beloved child of God, you'll stop settling for anything less than what God desires for you. Lesson 6. There was a time when I drifted so far from my values, I didn't believe I could come back. Even after meeting Matthew, I struggled to live out the faith and values that I claimed to believe. Everything changed when we got engaged and I went to confession. The priest's words made me realize just how far I had wandered. And though I knew that God would forgive me, I also knew I couldn't keep living the same way. So together, my fiance and I made the decision that moving forward, we would practice celibacy until we were married in the church a year later. It definitely wasn't easy, but over time, this decision brought me a powerful sense of healing and of peace. You might make mistakes, but no matter how far you've gone, God will always forgive you and be waiting for you to return to Him. His mercy is real, and when you respond to it with honesty and courage, it can transform your heart and your life. Lesson 7. Even after I returned to the church, I still carried a lot of guilt and shame from past choices I'd made, especially in dating. I knew I compromised my values, and though I believed in God's mercy, I struggled to actually receive it. What helped me begin to heal was returning to confession, prayer, and scripture, especially the story of the prodigal son. That story reminded me that God is patiently waiting with love for us to return to Him. The father didn't hold the son's mistakes over him. He ran to embrace him. And that's exactly how God received me. With God's healing love, you can leave the past behind. Even if you've made mistakes in dating, you don't have to be defined by them. You don't have to stay stuck in the past. With Him, you can begin again. Dating as a Catholic woman can be difficult, especially if you're trying to stay true to your values in a world that often pushes against them. But even if you've made mistakes, you don't have to stay stuck in them, because God's mercy is real, and His healing love has the power to transform everything, including your relationships. It's never too late to begin again with Him. And now I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned about dating and faith in your own journey? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm wishing you a very blessed day.